we'll get them caught up as much as possible. But thank you so much for joining. Again, this is the webinar series on community infrastructure investments. I want to start out by saying that this webinar series is brought to you in partnership with Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services, DPHHS. 0 to 5 Montana is honored to serve as the grant administrator for the employer-sponsored child care grant made possible through a contract with DPHHS Bright Futures Birth to 5 program. So we're gonna, first off, I just want to introduce myself. If this is the first time that you're meeting me, my name is Shelby Whalen. I'm Community Navigator for 0 to 5 Montana. I grew up in Columbia Falls, Montana, graduated from the University of Montana with my psychology degree and a minor in family and human development. And now I live in Butte, my husband and my dog Dolly, as you can see there. Before this role, I facilitated several community coalitions and have worked in project development really focused around early childhood initiatives at the local level, and now as the community navigator get to work on supporting community groups across the state in their childcare innovations. So a little bit of background about 0 to 5 Montana. If you aren't familiar, 0 to 5 Montana is a nonpartisan policy and advocacy organization who really work to uplift voices and families around early childhood systems across the state. Our promise is to stabilize, innovate, and build the early childhood system in Montana so all families and communities can thrive. We have several key initiatives, those being Montana Child Care Business Connect for childcare businesses, our tribal initiatives and coalition, and then Montana Parent Voice for advocacy and legislative action. But today we're going to be focusing on Family Forward Montana and some of the initiatives that are tied into that work. So what is Family Forward Montana? I'm going to do a brief overview. It's an initiative focused on employer satisfaction across all businesses and industries. So anything from employee benefits that are around healthcare all the way to on-site, near-site childcare. So just promoting family-friendly business practices to recruit and retain staff. So looking ahead to today's webinar, we're going to be talking about the why now for investing in childcare at a community level. We're going to go over an overview of what the community infrastructure investment model looks like, some key components and benefits, and then we're going to talk about some local and national examples so that we can kind of learn from partners and friends from other states. And then we'll leave today with some actionable steps for employers and business leaders to take back to their team when they're thinking about applying for this upcoming employer-supported childcare grant. Why now? So you might be thinking, what does the childcare system really look like in the state, and why does it impact business leaders? So childcare is a workforce issue. We like to say that childcare force behind the workforce. I mean, if parents can't find a safe and reliable place for their children to go during the day, then they themselves can't feel comfortable or in joining the workforce. I'm getting another internet connection instability warning. The lack of childcare in Montana is significant. Our care only meets about 44% of the demand across the state, and that comes from data from 2023. And then the care for infant need specifically is 32%. Labor force challenges. So in 2023, an estimated 66,000 parents indicated that they could not fully participate as a direct result of childcare challenges. So that could be anything from leaving the workforce entirely, going down to part-time or reducing hours, or just regularly being absent from the work because of sick kiddos, childcare closing, or any number of other reasons. This is also not a passing trend. So this is data out, national data. So 73% of respondents stated that they would gladly take a new job role with a lateral move if that company had family-friendly business practices and family-friendly culture. And 94% of respondents named family-friendly benefits as a top priority when they were looking for new work. So family-friendly business practices and especially the community infrastructure investment is really good for businesses, families, and community. So when we're talking about businesses, we've heard that many times over that when parents have access to regular and consistent care, they can show up for work, they can show up better to work, meaning that businesses are going to thrive and have a lot more financial productivity and happier staff. It's good for caregivers because they don't have to worry where their kids are during the day, which means that their mental health is going to be elevated. They also can feel confident that their children are in safe and reliable hands where they can be there. And they can prioritize their career and raising children equally than having to decide what is more important to them. Children who access care uh,
Shelby, you're cutting out on us a little bit.
am I? Okay. I'll try to slow down and see if that can help us out. I also don't have many other tabs that I can close, but thank you for the heads up. I'm seeing a message in the chat. Is that for me?
It looks to me like Lisa is just identifying that she's with Brett's RV.
Oh, great. Oh, it's so good to see you. Thank you. Um, and then, of course, for communities. So we're going to be investments. And this model is really taking you out of the funnel of caring for just the outcomes of your staff, but really the outcomes of the community around you. So when businesses thrive, the economy thrives, and community trust grows. So really, not only supporting your workforce, but the workforce as a holistic piece of your community. So an overview of the community infrastructure model is really that employers support childcare infrastructure costs through engagement and investment in community childcare systems, expanding shared services that increase provider sustainability and invest in childcare workforce programs and services. So these funds that are really put forth by employers can go to a variety of different services for childcare systems. That could be for supporting shared services for childcare programs, investing in the childcare workforce and growth, increasing advocacy efforts of the importance of childcare, and so much more. This model is really based around partnership. So who could really be involved in this work alongside you? Not only childcare providers, because that's going to be that big piece, but also local nonprofits, other businesses, community leaders, cooperatives, early childhood coalitions, and then your everyday community member who might fit into these roles or others. So some things to consider when thinking about implementing this model. Just because it is a very lofty goal, sustainability takes a lot of time. So building infrastructure that is systems based is not a quick fix. By joining early, your business helps shape the direction, the tone, and the benefits from an early stage, but it really does take time to build something that's going to last. Partnerships are at a core of this work. Sometimes it's easy to be in your own bubble and you're like, I'm going to solve this issue on my own because then I don't have to worry about, big energy or putting a lot of weight into another partner to get an aspect through an action. But when we talk about sustainability, partnerships are at the core of making sure that we have access to expanded resources, more capacity on your team. So really seeing the benefit of having a broader sense of your team when going through this program or process. It's also a significant investment opportunity for the company. So contributing funds, time, and other resources is not necessarily cheap or easy to do, but businesses are already footing the cost for a lack of childcare or a broken system in their communities. So why not put the investment into the positive rather than the repercussions of that lack of care or care challenge? So this is a very broad idea, but we do have some local examples that can start kind of feeding the idea generator for what could be possible in your community. I do want to just shout out again, we're remembering the basics that these definitely don't all look the same. So if we can remember that employees can support childcare infrastructure costs through engagement and investment into the childcare system, then we can kind of look at these examples as a guiding light for ways that we can utilize this model. The first program that I want to highlight is Ravalli Child Care Advantage. So Ravalli County is a current participant in the employer supported child care grant program, and they're really doing the work to create a learning network for businesses to participate financially. They do get access to priority wait lists, but there's so much more that goes into the business investment from these communities. First and foremost, this program is built around a new platform. I guess it's not new, but it's new to the community, called Kinside or Urban Sitter. This is a platform that is a waitlist management system. So when you think about waitlist management, how it currently works for many childcare programs, it really is a huge lift to manage, not only for providers, but also for parents. So currently, parents, oftentimes are given a list of options in their area for care, and they have to sit down and they have to call all the providers, do their own research on their websites or their Facebook pages, set up times to visit, and that really takes the time away from other tasks, whether that's work tasks or just their busy lives. And providers often have an Excel sheet that is filled with parents' names that when a spot opens up, have to sit down, call parents individually. And that's when they usually find out that kids have aged out of needing care, have found care elsewhere. And so it really does take a lot of time to manage that back and forth of filling just a single slot. Whereas Kinside does that all for providers and parents. So a provider will post a spot, a whole bunch of parents that have active waitlist requests open will immediately be matched with the care that fits their needs the best, and then they can mutually accept or reject that pairing, and it cuts down on a lot of time. Another aspect of Kinside and Urban Sitter that is really vital to the community infrastructure piece is that that this community will have access to real-time supply and demand analysis data, which has never really been seen before in this state in this way. So oftentimes when we look at, okay, how much care do we actually have available for families and what families need care, it's a lot of estimating. And it's a lot of estimating for a system that is constantly changing. When we have new programs opening up and programs closing, it's hard to really see that as a reliable picture of what care looks like. But when we have active slots being marketed and parents that are actively looking for spots, we can see that there is a much more in the moment look at what the need is for different areas. This model is also developing in multiple communities across the state already. So in Missoula, Gallatin, and Park County, we're seeing very similar systems being set up. So continuing with Ravalli Child Care Advantage, the cost to scalable the affordability of and access that business is looking for. So $150 per employee that are looking for the benefit. And on top of getting priority waitlist access, they also get one-on-one technical assistance with a coordinator to implement other family-friendly business practices. They also get priority access to local in-person family workshops that are developed by this team. The funds that are raised by these business memberships really go to benefit the program and those around might be using the program. So it funds a program coordinator that can help train local providers, and then also is that coordinator for the family workshops and for that technical assistance for businesses. Form. They are looking to do some marketing. Is it that again?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, Shelby.
Okay. Is it to a point where it's like not good?
It seems okay now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I'll keep going and we'll just truck through this as much as we can. Thank you so much for your patience. Man, Wi-Fi in Montana really needs to get better. So marketing for local providers, in-class support from that program coordinator, and family engagement and coaching. Down the road, they hope that these funds will go to establishing a scholarship fund for families who struggle to pay for care and don't qualify for the state-administered Best Beginnings Child Scholarship. Now, Shoto Youth Alliance is a really interesting program. This is kind of more that we're learning from things as much as we can. So Shoto Youth Alliance is a new child care center that is developed by a nonprofit in the Shoto area that has been backed by community and business partnerships from its beginning. So it's been a 6+ year project with ongoing partnership and growth still to this day, which is really exciting. But they really saw businesses as an opportunity to partner and learn from and be supported by. So they did a lot of personal outreach to businesses in their area, explaining the need for childcare and the opportunity to engage. And they've done several fundraising events that have included businesses that support that effort. The employee contributions have been very diverse. So not only have businesses financially contributed through this nonprofit and fundraising events, but they've also offered field trip opportunities for students. They've donated furniture, books, food. They've provided locations for events. And then they've also assisted with the setup of this program by letting staff donate or letting staff use work days to attend those days of like setting the facility up, moving things around. And in fact, when I reached out to the coordinator, she said that they had 6 community members that used their work time to move furniture for painting just a couple of days prior. And then information sharing, so learning from local businesses about business best practices. So using QuickBooks and how to operate with local lawyers and their professionals. So a real partnership. A model that is relatively new to our state, so we don't have a ton of unique examples that we can learn from. So we really do like to reach out to our national partners and learn from them as well. So again, remembering the basics, it's engagement, it's expansion for the early childhood system. So in Iowa, there's a program, oh my gosh, and I am going to butcher this, so I'm just not going to say it. I practiced and then I'm just not gonna. But starting in 2018, this nonprofit developed a childcare economic boost by really looking to employers to contribute funds and to the state to invest as well. With employee contributions between $5,000 and $600,000, the group secured more than $800,000 in local investment and $560,000 in additional state funds to support the workforce stability of early care and education. The results of this investment really went to training and childcare staff and improving wage. So they had over 30 public-private sector partners. They were able to expand childcare facilities, meaning that 223 new childcare slots were created in 2024, and they expect for an additional 412 slots this year. 77 newly trained and hired childcare professionals were ushered through using this funding in 2024, and 184 were expected for this coming year, which is a really amazing boost in staff capacity and program capacity. On their website, they display all of the businesses that were key contributors to this effort. And I just kind of wanted to put this slide in there so that you all can see the diversity of businesses that were able to be a part of this effort. It's not, all of the programs that feel very tied to early childhood. It's not, kid programming. It really is like the people who just operate in communities and want to see their communities thrive. In Indiana, in 2017, a group of over 25 individuals and organizations came together to build an infrastructure investment, and they created an initiative called First Five, which also has a landing platform for educational purposes for childcare providers and families, and really a way for businesses to invest in their programming. This also has a childcare facility built in. So the funds not only went to all of these initiatives, but also to priority slots and reserved slots at this local childcare facility. The scholarships that were funded by this investment from businesses really go to pay childcare providers for going to get their associate's and bachelor's degree in early childcare, which really cuts down on the barrier of providers who would love to grow their professional background, but just have the funds to go back to school or have the opportunity to. They also share administrative costs. So some of those programs that really take up a lot of that budget that childcare programs are operating under. And then they went to building more fair and livable compensation for childcare staff. They also, much like Ravalli County is hoping to do, built out the First Five scholarship, which goes to parents who don't qualify for the scholarship program. It would be silly if I didn't talk about investment cooperatives here, but a cooperative model is for sure an option for businesses to explore. Some basics of cooperatives are that it's member-owned, member-controlled, and member-benefited. Back in 2022-ish, maybe, Karen can correct me, but 0 to 5 partnered with Montana Cooperative Development Center to build out a childcare cooperative toolkit. So within this cooperative toolkit, you'll see other models that are focused on supporting the childcare industry, including investment cooperatives. So this model is really built by businesses that are pooling their funds to go directly into childcare infrastructure. So startup costs, new builds, renovations, paying childcare providers, increasing benefit packages for providers in their area, but really working to invest in childcare and not run the business. There are 7 guiding principles for cooperative models that you can see there. This is not just a word we can throw around, but this is a business level. And so I encourage you, if you're exploring cooperative models, to reach out to Montana Cooperative Development Center so that it can walk you through the very nuanced and detailed aspects of building a cooperative model. So what does the kind of action look like when we're thinking about this type of process? So looking ahead, let's discuss what you might be considering. This comes from a guide from the Chamber of Commerce Foundation, which is QR code linked above that you can check out that really is through how to implement these types of innovations. But first and foremost, you have to find out what the existing overlaps are in each partners to see if there are already initiatives that are working towards some of these goals, and if that is a partnership opportunity, if that is a an alliance or something that can really further both of y'all's mission rather than taking away from the work that they've already been doing. Second, identify the opportunities to support. So what supports do providers need? What supports do families need? And what can you contribute? So if that's funds, services, products, and administrative duties. Three, participate and contribute. So really putting forth the effort. So this is kind of that like make that jump. So once you have your sights set on an option, really commit to that and follow for your communities with come back to your why from the beginning. How is it working? And do we need to change anything? I'm going to let my internet catch up. So when we're thinking about what partnerships could look like or who you should reach out to really see if these efforts are already happening in your area, there is a guide on our website that can walk you through kind of doing some mapping around your collaborative effort. So really reaching out to some of those people that you might feel have a hand in this, and also some of those subsections of your community that are a little surprising. So reaching out to healthcare facilities, childcare providers, businesses in your area, cultural institutions, and even faith-based organizations and local government. You want to look at natural allies for your work. So things that are people that are directly impacted by this effort. So parents, childcare providers, early childhood coalitions, those types of folks. But also looking at community influencers. So thinking about the people who really know the people, they go to the coffee shop and they happen to just, spend 3 hours there because they're talking to everybody and anybody. And you also want to look at the community connectors. So these people are, they hold important resources in your area. They might have leadership roles in your community to make change happen. And then obviously content experts. So that could be people in the early childhood field, but it also could be people who have expertise in other avenues of business and community development. So things like advisors and accountants and other people that can support your effort in different ways. So some great places to start. Really, it is all about connecting, asking the questions, and putting the investment to place. So here are some QR codes of some places to see if you have efforts in your area already. So Montana Early Childhood Coalitions are all over the state. These are community groups that are built around navigating and supporting the early childhood system, and oftentimes have childcare innovations built into their work plans. Definitely reaching out to licensed and registered childcare programs. So that dashboard link there lists all the licensed and registered providers in your area with contact information, and that can really be a way to start reaching out and building partnerships, not only for the application period of this grant, but also in the future as you continue to expand your network. Local Chamber of Commerce, I'm sure that all the business folks in the room right now are very familiar with their chamber, but this is a place where you can find your partner organizations, your investors that also see the value in this work and would gladly jump on this project given the opportunity. And most importantly, your staff and their families. So that QR code will take you to our template for employee surveying. But your most valuable resource is the people that are going to be working in your company, needing this type of investment, and would be more than happy to support you in any way they can, but specifically by telling their story. Surveying your employees is a vital piece of this work, especially if you're looking at applying for this grant. It's a necessity. So I do have a couple of steps to identifying or steps to collecting data for from your staff. So really identifying and customizing your collection method. So again, that QR code on that page will take you to our template. Really identifying whether you're wanting to reach out to your parents virtually or via paper, through surveys, interviews, focus groups. I would recommend really identifying multiple directions that you're going to approach gathering information from your staff for accessibility and reach. But really distributing the survey to folks, again, talking about or being considerate of anonymity as a priority for some families, but also thinking about access for staff if that is something that is necessary. Identifying themes and sharing your results. So communicate the why behind asking these questions. And before you just jump into a solution or really throw in the towel, communicate to your staff what's the plan moving forward? Like, how is their information going to be utilized? And obviously repeat that regularly. Staff turnover can change the dynamic of your business quite quickly, and data becomes obsolete if it's not telling the story of the people who are using that service. So current benefit assessments, or this tool is really built out into a couple different sections. So one of those being current benefit assessments. So really, what benefits are you currently utilizing? Are staff utilizing them, or do they feel like they are useful, or are there any gaps to the needs that they feel would be best served? And then childcare needs for those parents that are utilizing care. What does that look like? What ages do they have? Do they need care for? And really their priorities for safety, programming, philosophy, really diving into the type of care that they need. But let staff tell their own story so you can really have the qualitative data as well as the quantitative data. So we want those hard numbers. We want to see where parents are sitting and needing, but also you want to be able to tell that story to entice investors and to really explain to the community the depth of the issue. This is just a slide kind of going over the basics of the employer-sponsored grant opportunity. So if you're not familiar with this already, these are the different strategies that could be implemented, one of those being the community infrastructure investment there in the middle. But just wanted to highlight out there that one strategy is not necessarily going to fit the needs of everybody in the room. And that's why we have these webinars to kind of explore all these other options that might feel intimidating or lofty for businesses to engage in. This is the grant overview. If you aren't familiar already, the grant application is creeping up just quickly. So please, consider putting in some effort early on, and then we'll be thrilled to work with the providers that get accepted. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have during this webinar, but of course, I'm also available for one-on-one meetings or for a quick email. So please use this time to find a time on my calendar to meet if you would like to just kind of have some extra eyes or support on your innovations moving forward. And of course, our familyforwardmontana.org website is going to be your hub for all things Family Forward, including this grant. And yeah, I will stop share and answer any questions that are in the room. And again, thank you so much for your patience with my technical challenges
Shelley,
today.
after Wednesday, Lonnie sent out the slides from that presentation. Will we get the slides from yesterday and today? And
Yes.
because I need to then take this information and share it with some other people in my organization. So
Yes, definitely. Lena can correct me, but they should be posted on the website, yes?
Yes, so Tobias, we do have the decap slides as well as yesterday's on our website, and then have this as well as including the
okay, thank you. You had sent the other out via email, but I can
right.
I have the website saved, so I'll leave them up there. Thank you.
Yes, and Karen put the link to those recordings and presentations in the chat. So thank you so much for asking that question.
Shelby, could you just clarify for me? One of the things that you said was a possibility was investing in the childcare workforce, correct? As a strategy here.
It's definitely a piece of some of the programming around other states and folks in this community. I would defer to Lena specifically, but if you're thinking about using some of these funds to into a program or wage or to establish an opportunity for providers to get more training, I think that pays into the childcare workforce and would be a really cool investment.
So you cut out for just a second, so I'm just going to ask a little bit more there.
Yes.
So if a consortium of employers were to get together and find ways to help invest in the childcare workforce, that would be an eligible project.
I'll defer to Lena.
I think, Jennifer, it would depend on the scope of where the employees of those employers would benefit from it. So like in the example for Bitterroot, they have a cooperative or coalition to where those employees have access to priority wait lists, but it may be in that infrastructure. And I don't know if that specifically potentially have some education investment in the providers that are providing those priority waitlist slots.
So it would have to be, you're saying it would have to be a targeted select group of providers that the employees were using, and then
Or
that would,
if it's like a priority wait list, or if it was participation, and like in that, it's a group of different providers in that particular cooperative or coalition that is part of that community infrastructure strategy.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to the dual purpose of those funds. So those funds are spent into this shared fund space, but then the employer that invested that money, their employees are still getting something in return, like priority spots on wait lists or a reserved spot or some sort of added benefit. And then those funds that are in this pool can be distributed in a different way, like having, a scholarship fund for families that don't qualify for Best Beginnings, for training and supporting childcare programming, but that there would be those dual benefits for the funds.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do have one more question. When we're talking about community infrastructure investment, infrastructure also means physical spaces. So is there the opportunity to explore physical spaces for future childcare efforts?
We explore, can you, what you mean there?
Well, I guess, we have talked about in our community, the biggest issue we have is lack of available physical spaces for childcares. And so it's very difficult to grow or expand because there's literally no place in town that meets the current needs for a physical location. And so when you're looking at a long-term infrastructure investment, one of those first steps is exploring physical sites. So it seemed to be the last time that wasn't something that was allowed. Has that changed, or is it still the same requirements there? I think the word infrastructure investment throws me off.
I will say, Jennifer, the direction and under the contract and for these preschool development funds, any type of construction related expenses are not eligible to be funded under this grant award.
Does that include the planning?
I would have to clarify that just to be sure, and I can get back to you on that. I know that is more of coming through the federal award requirements, so we'll really
Sure.
need to clarify what those parameters are pretty strict. But I can definitely follow up with you on that. And then we can also include that in when we update the FAQ for the website.
And I guess, again, along that line, you guys have mentioned before that you want the benefit to be seen in October. Well, when I'm thinking of, long-term community infrastructure investment, that's not something that can be in place by October usually.
Right. Let me just
So-
clarify. We're saying starting in October, right? We want to start to see that whether it's on a community infrastructure, people coming together, these are employers that are basically coming together committed to developing a strategy. This is the strategy, and start to have a plan in place, because a strategy plan will need to be submitted as part of the grant. So we do want to see that there is a committed group of whether it's, employers, community members, and how their number of employees will benefit from it. And start to see that progression that aligns with the strategy plan. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So it doesn't. So I guess the other day I was under the impression from the way you guys spoke that something had to be directly happening in October in order to qualify. But you're saying that planning qualifies as that.
Yes.
Okay.
What we don't, what the challenge is, it's a 1-year grant, and there is
Sure.
reporting both financially and progression. What we want to really, I guess, emphasize because a contract would start in October. So we're We'll have announcements and announcements of who'd be awarded the first part of September. Go through that process of the contract agreement. So October 1st is the effective date. So what we're saying is that whoever's awarded is ready to start your planning, start your kind of progression. What we want to make sure is that it isn't September 1st of 2026, which would be problematic anyway. Through the reporting, we will identify if a project isn't progressing. So that's really because you do only have that 12 months time frame to just demonstrate use of those grant award funds.
And again, this model specifically, along with many of the others as well, is a developing and growing systems change effort. So while it might start out with these funds looking a certain way, the way that you can grow given business investment or the needs of the community, that might change in the coming years. But to see the effort being directed at these local employees from the beginning is going to be really that piece.
And this is a pretty broad type of strategy. And so I would probably point everybody to help kind of give framework to it, to the grant booklet on kind of the overview of it. But again, because there's so many moving parts to this particular one, encourage you to reach out to Shelby to connect. We are seeing 2 of our grantees that are underway that have that are doing the community infrastructure investment. So we're also kind of seeing how that's evolving and learning from them as far as how things have progressed well and what some challenges that they've had to kind of navigate around.
Any other questions for folks? I'm also happy to answer questions about some of the, more topical specific how-tos. So building relationships and who to reach out to and how they can be involved, those kinds of things. And that can come later too. Like Lena said, my calendar is always, free and open for folks to be able to reach out.
Shelby, could you quickly remind me again what the topic for Tuesday the 5th is?
Lena, can you quickly remind me what the time?
So that'll be the final one, and it'll be on reserving slots, priority wait list, and backup care.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad
everyone
that
for joining.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. It's so great to see you, and I hope to see you on another call.
Have a great weekend.